Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Our guest today, man, very happy that you are here. Graeme Barlow, serial entrepreneur, investor, public speaker, and founders coach, focused on helping early stage companies scale their first million, 5 million in revenue. Now, you may break the myth on this, but started his first tech venture around the age of 10 and sold your first company in your late teens. Is that true?
That is. Tech venture is a little generous. It was kind of a collective of nonsense and video game addicts, but yeah, it was kind of our intro to entrepreneurship before I knew what that word meant.
I love it. And since then, over the last handful of decades, has co-founded many firms in the space of gaming, digital currency, SaaS, marketing. And I'm especially happy that we are making this happen because this is the second time we try to make this podcast. Maybe the third time we try to make this podcast happen.
I think third.
Third time. The last time you were on your way out to the studio, got turned around in some of that beautiful North Shore traffic that we were talking about offline that hits you sometimes. But I'm glad we are here, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And for everybody that is listening here that doesn't know the man, the myth, the legend, Graeme Barlow, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit a lot of it on the intro, but been an entrepreneur my entire life. I fundamentally don't know how to do anything else. I've been very fortunate to be in a lot of the right place at the right time. Learned a lot of painful lessons along the way. Have been able to build and sell multiple companies, have gone through the journey of scaling up and rapidly scaling down companies. After an exit 2 companies ago, also had the privilege of running an early stage investment fund for 3 years where we invested in a ton of SaaS companies, have been an angel investor. Today, I run one of the largest software development companies in Canada called Iversoft. I also run a community for founders called FounderLink. Think of kind of a free, high-value version of YPO, EO, Hampton, any of those, without the kind of 10K price up front. And then in the last year and a half, with all my spare time, started coaching companies and founders in kind of that pivotal early stage, 0 to a million, $1 million to 5 million growth phase that I saw. Honestly, a lot of terrible advice going out on Instagram and on social, and wanted to get involved to try and help people, and made it a bit of a personal mission to be a bit of an advocate for pretty hardcore focus on simple systems, revenue, profitability, and helping people get past those milestones. Because I think when you can consistently do that in companies, and I've been lucky to do it a few times now, it changes everything for what you can accomplish for your family, for yourself, for impact in the world. And so yeah, get to have a lot of fun working with all kinds of people around the world.
And on top of that, you're a father of a 3.5-year-old.
I am, which is honestly kind of like raising your own tiny startup. It's wild, and some days you're like, I'm on top of the world and everything is amazing. And other days you're like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and please send help.
Yeah, Elon Musk has this like theme or this saying that became pretty popular of being an entrepreneur is like staring out into space and chewing on glass and not knowing, what that's actually going to be. And some days are like that when you're raising a kid too. I was giving you offline here. We were talking about how this morning it was I had it like very scheduled out, and it was just absolutely destroyed by my 4-year-old daughter now, and just could not get things together. But that's one thing too, is like it's really taught me as a father is the ability or the requirement to be flexible in what you do and remain calm with, you know, the new information that's presented to you. But yeah, it changes things, man. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. It's fun though.
I gotta ask you, why do my software subscriptions go up in price every single year? From somebody that's not involved in the software industry that much. Like one of our like our bottom of our P&L sheet here is just like I get these increases all the time, and it's frustrating. But why? Why do every single year? I know it's not costing more, but why do I get software subscriptions that keep going up in price, man?
I love it. And I like that this is building on a conversation we had. But there's so much that goes into that. Ultimately, a lot of that comes down to as products get stickier and as you see higher usage and you've got good data from your users, one of the few dials you get to play with is price increases and revenue increases. And if you know you're well embedded into an ecosystem and you're providing a ton of value, at a very surface level, it's price is one of those things that you can make small adjustments to, and it's generally not going to churn a ton of users, and the product becomes a little bit more profitable. From an operating perspective, like typically the software to run and maintain year over year gets cheaper with efficiencies in cloud infrastructure and just generally cleaner code and cleaner operations as the company goes. What gets more expensive every year is customer acquisition. You tend to have this curve where early on, early adoption, customer acquisition starts really expensive when you don't know what you're doing. And then it gets a little bit cheaper and you optimize kind of the hell out of it for a little while. And you get to kind of go after this huge open market. And once you've captured kind of all of the easy opportunities, you have to start spending more and more and more to acquire new users. And so oftentimes the price increases are also driven by a cost increase to get new users into the ecosystem and maintain the margins that are kind of come to be expected in the SaaS industry, which is like crazy high gross margin and then significant expense on sales and marketing to acquire new users.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that's just like it irks me every year. I don't hold it against you software guys, but I had to ask.
Hey, it's why do houses go up every year?
I know. Well, I get that same question. I have a huge amount of thoughts behind that, and we can get into that when I come on your podcast.
I
We'll
love it.
we'll
That'll
get
be
right
fun.
into that, or listen to the next episode because I think we're going to do an episode specifically on that because we do get asked that question a lot, and people need to know why does the cost of construction continue to go up, or just general goods and services, and why is a house now all of a sudden like out of reach for the majority of people living in Canada. I have staff on our team, and they've written off the idea of home ownership, and for
Oh,
like a company that builds houses and we're in there every day, it's just like it's wild
yeah.
for to think that this is where, and like look at the my daughter, right? What does this look like for their generation? Are we going to be in a position where just owning a home, unless it comes through some sort of an inheritance or you have some sort of family bump that can help you along, is that actually going to be attainable? I'm talking, we're talking 20 years from now. I don't know, but it's a pretty heavy conversation with some of the people that we have on here for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's one, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but it's also one that's like so insanely varied based on geography, right? Like I work with one business in the kind of flipping industry, right? And they focus on flipping and renovating single family homes, but because and uh spreading out across the US, but like their average purchase price is like 85 to
Yeah.
140,000,
Yeah.
which is like that's phenomenal. Average purchase price on the North Shore of Vancouver, not that. And so I think a lot of it starts to come down to like where are you trying to buy, and are there enough digital opportunities coming where kind of proximity to jobs and resources and opportunities like that are becoming less, and therefore there are more opportunities for the next generation to maybe spread out more and find less expensive neighborhoods and areas. I don't know. I think it's going to be some interesting evolution over the next few years.
When you're in a market that you're geographically tied to, and like it specifically in construction, right? Software is very different. It's
Yes.
national, like it's safeguarded by international regulations and a number of different ways. But for the most part, right, it's expandable. When you're talking about trades and home service based businesses, it's this idea of you're in this market. What is that specific market? If you're looking at targeting say homes or clients that are within a 50-kilometer radius of your core offering, wherever that is, it becomes a challenge, and marketing becomes very different. The tactics to get in front of customers gets very different. So you end up going very, very narrow, but very deep, right? Whether
Yeah.
that's going to be in the community, your customers are, in any business, are absolute gold and need to be treated like so. And especially if you're in a small town, we always know that we are only as good as our last at bat, man. Like we have, if we have a customer that we're working with and things go sideways, you can bet that person knows 60 other people that they're going to tell. And people rarely tell people about the good experiences they have, but
Oh
they
yeah.
are super, super quick to tell everybody they know about the bad experience that they're having. So you got to be careful. And that's where not only customer service, but also the systems that you have in place, management of their money and management of their time becomes super, super important.
Absolutely. But it's interesting. And I'm not sure if this is a theme you want to go down right now, but
Well, I wasn't planning
one of
on
the
that,
things
but
that
let's go.
well, what I was going to say is one of the things that's super interesting to me when I see businesses like that is that geographic focus, while it's a strength, is also a massive liability for the company because you are so impacted by local economics and local brand. And so, one of the things that's always been very interesting to me, and we're proving it now with a number of portfolio companies, is like if you've got that kind of excellence in a local market for a long term kind of scale and resilience, the best thing to do is take the playbooks, take the operations, take the things that have made that company amazing, and find kind of lookalike markets so you can start spreading out across multiple geographies with the same model. Like, don't change the model, but expand the geography because the market isolation, there's great opportunity, but there's also huge risk. And it's not to say there isn't risk with expanding geographically, but if we're talking long-term resilience for a company, I actually think it's one of the most important things you can do once you've got the systems in place to kind of own a small market like that is find ways to replicate that. I mean, it's literally what we've been doing in the flipping business. Is they were kind of dominant in one kind of core area of one state, and it was like, cool, we've got this dialed in here. Rather than trying to go deeper on this, let's take the playbook and apply it to 5 other counties in the same state. Cool, that worked. Now let's take that and apply it to 2 more states, and all of a sudden scale is ramping like crazy because you just got more opportunity, more access.
And down in the States, I've had this conversation a few times on the podcast, but down in the States, one thing that they have is a lot of incentive to specifically get into real estate and start construction projects because you are not paying tax on every single transaction that happens. So if you're flipping homes and you're taking that money and you're putting the
And you
capital
roll it
that
into
you
the
have,
next one.
you roll it in the next one. You're not paying taxes on it until you decide, hey, I'm out, or I'm going to start taking some money. So there's that huge incentive to move things along and keep that wheel going. And here in Canada, we don't have that opportunity.
No, a very, very, very different world.
You mentioned a lot of bad information on Instagram that was getting out in front of these business owners that are looking to scale to $1 million and to $5 million in this startup world. What is some of the worst information that you've seen, and what are these? Is there a common theme that when these founders come to you and you're talking with them, they have this this belief that something is going to work and that just ends up becoming completely false? Or is it something there that they generally have the grasp of it and the understanding, but it's needs to be tweaked a little bit? But what are you finding most of these entrepreneurs when they come to you are getting wrong?
But so many things. So I mean, a lot of that honestly started with just frustration at kind of seeing the rise of coaching as an industry on social media and starting to see this kind of fairly slick edited ads, and then you kind of dig underneath and you look at like who's running this, who's offering this, and you realize it's somebody that's never actually built a thing, but they've stuck together a course and they would just want to stick people through the course. And I think one of the things I found, it's not to say all courses are bad, but for most companies, they buy these kind of one-off products and think it's going to fix everything for them. And the reality is, like, business is simple but messy at the same time, and that everyone's got their own weird, unique nest of shit that they've created. And the thing that is most important for them to go deal with one week is not the same as everyone else. Like, one of my favorite things about working with kind of groups of founders at similar revenue sizes is they all hit different problems at different times. And if you try and take everyone in that cohort and stick them into a course, like, on this week we talk this, on this week we talk this, like, maybe 10% of them are going to be at the place where they actually need to hear that content. The reality is most are dealing with different problems, whether it's hiring, whether it's revenue, whether it's client acquisition, whether it's firing or managing customers. Like, there's so much that goes into it. And early on, you don't really have systems for people for any of it. And you need to build a lot of discipline and muscle around, tackle a thing, create the system, make it repeatable, hand it off, tackle the next thing. And I think the two most common things I see early stage founders, and this is like bootstrapped and venture backed. One is focus. And I blame social and books and a million other things for this, but like, I meet so many people that are like a team of 3 and they sit down and they're like, all right, here are the 40 things I'm doing this week. I'm like, and they're like, and nothing's working. I was like, yeah, no shit. Like, with a team of 10, I couldn't do all of that well. You're a team of 2 and you don't know how to do any of this stuff. So, and like, focus versus I need to feel busy. I want to feel busy and I need to feel like I'm doing everything. I think is one of the biggest limiting challenges for people, when oftentimes being willing to say, okay, these things aren't going to happen, but the things that are important, the 1 or 2 big things that I need to move are going to move. And learning that muscle and learning that discipline of how to just move big pieces and either get things delegated or just let some things not happen, while you do the core pieces, is huge. And I also see this a lot in marketing when people come and they're like, oh my God, this trend and this trend and this trend, and I'm trying to do this platform and this platform and this platform. And it's like, pick one. Like, you don't need to try and do everything all at once. There's a lot of good tools for doing a lot of activity, but if you jump every single week to a new thing, you lose the entire benefit of kind of compounding effort and consistency and the lessons learned. And I also think people massively underestimate the time involved and the duration necessary for focus. Some people are like, I did it for 2 weeks and I don't see results. I'm like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try for 90 days. Like, actually putting meaningful time behind effort and energy. Like, I love Hermosi, I think, talks a lot about more, better, new, right? Like, the whole philosophy of like, whatever you're doing, you need to do, before you do new things, do more of what you're currently doing. Whatever is currently working for you, do more of it. And when you think you've done a lot of it, do more again. Once you're at kind of an obscene level of volume, focus on getting better at it and use the metrics, refine your hooks, refine your close rates, refine your show up, refine how you're delivering, like, just get better. Once you've done those 2 fairly exhaustively, now try new things. And I think we're with the amount of AI tools and hacks and trending stuff coming out, we're at one of the worst points ever for people chasing new.
I couldn't agree more. I went down to acquisition.com and did a couple days with our
Oh, cool.
Mosey team down there, and exactly what you're talking about, more, better, new. And I forget the exact percentages that they were talking about, but he's like 70% of your effort should be going towards doing more of what is working and continues to work because you know that that's going to work. That's where your focus should be. 20% of your time should be spent making things more effective and better. And 10% of your time is just like if you have time on the side of your desk, try something new. Just get out there. Don't be afraid. You always have to be trying something new, but don't make that your default because you and I love what you said about compounding effort, right? You get into this cycle of things you start off, things are going really really well, and then you kind of think that you're getting momentum, and momentum drops off, and then all of a sudden it starts getting difficult again, and you hit this challenge, you hit this ceiling, this complexity ceiling, and you're like, you come up against these first couple and you just write off the fact that, hey, this probably isn't going to work. So you have to pivot faster and try something totally different. But you never really got past that first couple of hurdles to really see the whole thing through, and never gave it an opportunity to actually come to exist and come to compound. I love what you said there.
You know, one of the biggest traps I've seen in that vein, and I can speak to this a little bit because I've been in the thick of this before myself. And most people, when you first talk to them about it, don't want to admit it or acknowledge it. And that is, if you're in a services business, um, the trap of leaving money on the table or other things we can do because we have the client, right? And the example I will have is like, we started as a mobile development company at Iversoft, and mobile development became web development because we needed the back end for as apps got more complicated. That was still complementary and kind of core skill sets. But as we started growing, like, oh, like we build these things and then they get launched, and now clients need help launching them. So we got into branding and positioning. And then, oh, like they need to sustain these, and we don't really have great maintenance contracts. So we should do like the marketing campaigns to grow this. So we bought a marketing agency and we spun up a marketing agency. And by the time we talked to this a little bit, like early 2020, we were kind of the digital agency. And that was our branding. And we did web, we did mobile, we did ads, we did campaigns, we did rebrands, we did personal branding, we did everything digital. And the idea was like, we are your one-stop shop. And rather than sell a client on one thing, we can sell them on the whole life cycle of everything. In theory, cool.
In theory.
In practice, that meant we had a team of 40, and at any given time, half a dozen people or a dozen people coming off of delivery of something that needed to then be fed with the next thing. And our sales team every week struggling with, well, do I need to go sell marketing campaigns? Am I selling apps? Am I selling websites? Like, and it's like, well, we sell all of it. It's cool. But then we'd also be like, oh, like our marketing team's idle. Go sell marketing stuff. And then the next week, be like, oh, web team just finished a project. Now they're idle. Go sell websites. And it's like absolute unmitigated chaos. And trying to deliver all of that well, deliver all of it consistently, hire for all of those roles, have an HR team that can screen for, vet, and onboard people with all of those different skill sets, and price all of it, brand all of it, and win was absolute chaos. And on paper, it's like, oh yeah, no, all of that's complementary. They're going to spend on those groups anyway. But as running a business, and a business with limited resources, it was a mess. And one of the hardest things we ever did was look in the mirror and go like, this, as much as this feels cool, and as much as it is a shiny thing, we are not succeeding at growing this well. And we ended up taking a step back and cut half the company and spun it out as a completely successful standalone company doing its own stuff, but took back our core of like, we are custom software development. That's what we do. That's what we're good at. took the team down to like 19 people from 40. And once we got hyper clear, like this is what we do and this is what we're good at, we tripled the business over the next 2 years
Wow.
because everyone was clear on like, here's what we sell, here's who we sell it to, here's how we hire. Everything got simpler. And like I've become a bit of a fanatical advocate for simplicity in companies to the point where you feel embarrassed that you've simplified things so much. But that's what makes things scalable. Like all of my experience says, like that's what makes businesses truly scalable is when you are very clear and simple in what you do and how you do it.
It's just no fun to talk about at dinner parties when people ask you what you do and you're like, I only do one thing, and you're sitting around a group of other business owners. I've been to some of your dinners, man. There's some pretty impressive people there. And when they say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm involved in 1900 companies," and you're like, "Oh, I just do this one little thing and that keeps people happy." It's like it's underwhelming. But to your point, right? It's focused. It's
Yeah.
focused, and at the end of the day, it really comes down to your customers getting an exceptional product, and they can't get that if you're completely scattered. And like you said, you don't have whether it's the systems in place to manage that, whether it's the CRM system, whether it's continuity between the multiple programs and offerings that you're offering, and the team having
Yeah.
clarity, right? Clarity on what they're delivering. And if they are scattered, like I'm very diligent about my calendar here. And if it's activities that are on my calendar, and I had a little space between, I had a meeting that ended up canceling, and I had some space in between our session here today. And for that 45 minutes, I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, do I call? Do I bug my team? Do I bug my staff? Should I just check in? Should I do this? Like you're kind of without knowing what you're going to be doing and what you're supposed to be focusing on for so many people,
Oh
you
my
tend
goodness.
not to focus on any one important thing at all. And I love what Jeff Bezos said in an interview once. He's like, I only need to make 1 to 2 decisions a day.
Yeah.
1 to 2 decisions a day that are thoughtful decisions. I will move mountains. I'll move things forward rather than 100 decisions, because you get caught up so much in this, like you said, this idea of keeping busy. And if you're not working on something and you're not busy, you're not answering emails, you're not on the phone making sales calls, and you're not doing anything. And in my experience, that's you just dilute whatever it is that's coming up next, or these tasks that are at hand that you should be working on. They just don't get any love or attention.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I find people find a lot of safety in the busy work they know, which is usually a bit of an exercise in avoiding the uncomfortable thing they need to do that would actually move the business forward. And when you start to get serious about that, and I think we've had conversations about this in the past, where it always entertains me when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, revenue is my single biggest problem." I was like, "Cool, let's look at your calendar. Where's your time going?" It's like, "Oh, 30 hours of internal meetings, 2 hours of coaching and follow-ups, and three hours of outbound." Remind me again how revenue is your number one most important problem, and what are we going to do to shift your priorities to actually put time towards the thing? They're like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know." It's like, you haven't even given yourself time to figure out what to do, let alone intentional focus to solve the problem. And so either it's the number one problem you need to solve, or it's not. And creating that intentionality, I think, is one of the best things you can do for creating that filter of like, okay, I've got 45 minutes. What is the number one thing I am responsible for right now that I can take that time and go attack that with?
Yeah, and what's the number one thing that nobody else on your team can do, right? And I and
100%.
I find that if like with context, right? Like context to your team is huge, and I think that that's one thing that entrepreneurs really struggle with, is because they have all of this information in their head,
Yeah.
and they don't know how to delegate that properly. They don't know how to communicate the goals of the company properly. They don't know how to put together just a very basic scoreboard so that staff, they understand what their targets are and how they can move forward. And so they're lost. And then you, as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, you have all this information in your head and you're like, why isn't anybody doing anything? And I hear this from business owners all the time. Why isn't anybody doing anything? And I would argue that they don't have the same kind of context that you do. So you
Oh,
either have to get really good and a lot better at providing that context to your team. Uh, Otherwise, this is just going to be a never ending cycle of you keeping everything to yourself and never being able to delegate any of these tasks. But also as the entrepreneur, there are certain things, or as the president or the CEO or really any position, in most cases, there's going to be tasks that only you can handle and only you should handle. And whether that's making YouTube videos, whether that's making the sales calls, whether that's putting together the proposals, I don't know. It'll change depending on what level
yeah.
you're at in the
Where you're at.
business. That will always change. But there are going to be things that only you can do. And one of the habits that I've gotten into is what am I doing? What's on my calendar? What can be outsourced? And what is the one thing that I can get completed that only I can do? I will outsource everything else first, and then I will focus on getting completed once I've cleared that time to make sure that the only thing, the rock that I have to move forward, that only I can
Yeah.
push down the mountain, I'm going to take care of, and I'm going to
Yeah.
handle that.
I love it.
Why do people have, let's stay on this topic for a minute. You mentioned cutting back some of the staff and making all these core offerings and eliminating that. Why do people have a lot of trouble killing things in their business? And is it mostly, is it ego driven? Is it this compounding effect that you think, man, we're getting so much momentum right now, and if we just keep going, if we just throw a little more money at it, it's gonna move. It's gonna move. But there's this idea of scaling back. But why do people typically have issues scaling back their offering?
It's an awesome question. My experience has been typically one of two things. Either, whether they want to admit it or not, there is some degree of kind of emotional connection to them doing or offering the thing. Whether that's like, oh, but like I love doing it, it's like, cool, or like we've always done it, or I really like the people that do that fulfillment. I hear that one a lot. I was like, why do you have this division? It's like, oh, like Bob's been with us for 10 years. It's like, Bob hasn't been profitable in two, and you don't know how to get customers here. Like, oh yeah, but like, but we're figuring it out. It's like, all right. Or the more common one, especially early on for companies, is this kind of scarcity mindset that if they say no to the revenue that's in front of them, even if it's not right fit, even if it's not core service, they don't know how to go get more of the right revenue. And so just to keep the growth going and keep momentum going, they say yes to any revenue. What they don't understand, and if you haven't experienced it, it's very hard, even intellectually, to like put your brain around it. But saying no to the short term revenue that maybe helps with cash flow, maybe helps with stress right now, but saying no to the stuff that isn't a good fit gives you more time, energy, space, capacity to go take on the revenue that's actually going to let you scale. And the more you say yes to just the revenue that's in front of you that doesn't fit in your company, the slower your growth becomes at a kind of macro level, because you're just dragging along all of this extra stuff. And if every new offering requires new playbooks, new training, new skill sets, new oversight, you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling the complexity in your business for what is kind of incremental revenue gain versus kind of here's what our core, here's what we do unbelievably well. Let's go take over the world doing just this. Um, One of my favorite examples of this, because I'm so proud of how he's focused on this recently. I work with a appointment setting SDR, outsourced SDR company. And like they've been growing like crazy, but they are constantly being asked by their clients to offer sales coaching or recruiting or strategy. And early on, he was starting to say yes to a lot of it because he's like, oh, like they're a good client. They want this add-on service. And one of the things we did early on was like started looking at the amount of his time that was going towards trying to fulfill and source and manage all of these add-ons you get promising to their clients versus like stay in your lane. This is what we do. We do it unreasonably well. You can pay us for it, but that's it. That is all we do. And what's crazy is they had this like huge backlog of customers waiting to sign up because they couldn't onboard people fast enough, but they kept bumping that to try and do these extra things. And once we got like hyper focused, like this business has grown from 0 to I think they'll do like gross 5 million this year in 2 years.
Wow.
Entirely, I'm going to say entirely, but like heavily down to focus and simplicity of offer. Like get really, really, really good at what they do and just become so disciplined at saying no, even though some of these have been like ludicrously high paying for coaching or for other things. It's like, it's not your core. And every time you add that, it adds an anchor to the growth of everything else. Because now you're building 2 businesses. Now you're building 3 businesses instead of 1. So I will forever be kind of an extreme advocate for that kind of relentless, almost embarrassing focus up to a point. My current thesis, and like I think this Musk challenges this to some extent, but like my current thesis is you have to be relentlessly focused up to about 10 million. After 10 million, you are free to get as distracted as you can afford to be because you actually have the capital and resources to hire good people to run things. Prior to 10 million, kind of fuck off. You have not earned the right to be distracted. You need to be relentless in the pursuit of like a single thing. Which, yeah, I think also goes counter to all the influencers on TikTok that are like, you need 19 forms of passive income. I was like, or one that drives ridiculous income until you've got enough capital to be diversified well.
Yeah, I have to have a little more focused time I have to spend before I'm able to pull spaceships out of the air with a pair of chopsticks and re-land it. So Musk has figured out a few things for sure.
Said, but also done it at like he was exceedingly focused early on, obsessively so in the companies they built. And then once he had unlimited money, yeah, now he's doing 100 gajillion things at once. But again, when you have unlimited global resources, you can do that successfully. It always blows my mind when I meet people that have like 4 companies doing $250,000 each. I'm like, you realize you could have one company doing 5 million, or you can have 4 struggling companies doing a little bit of money. Like,
and way less stress.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I had this thought, early on and explored it relentlessly. It was this naivety of this new, entrepreneurial found spirit where was going to start, where we wanted to start renovating homes and then building homes. But it was also, we wanted to do flooring and we were doing painting. And it was like this early on, like we didn't know revenue, like what you said back to this, like this scarcity mindset and not knowing where this revenue was going to be coming from. Anybody that got a whiff of like we could do something that they wanted to do, we started taking that on. It was like 2 of us out there pulling down bricks from a chimney, and it was like, oh well, they're gonna pay us $35 an hour to go out there and do it. So we have a few days to kill. Let's go out there and make this happen, or paint this deck or whatever it was. But it was just this idea in these early stages of it's just gritty, it's dirty. So you have to really take whatever you can and to really start building stuff up. So I think you have to be, how do I say this? Unfocused unclearly, I guess, or like focus becomes a bit messy because you're focused, but your main focus is getting customers, getting the business. It's not necessarily standing, behind, you don't have a big Instagram page or a big following or a big customer database or, any sort of market credibility at this point. It's literally like you're trying to put money on the table, trying
Oh
to
yeah.
feed your family, trying to get it done. So yeah, that only priority is getting any sort of revenue through the bank account, uh, so that you can continue to move forward. And then it becomes this idea of, all right, this works.
Yeah.
Now we have to stay highly focused on this area. And then you start outsourcing and dividing your time. But in the beginning, it's like,
Oh,
it's very,
you just
very
you
scrappy.
grind, right? Like I think there's no problem with that kind of early grind of say yes to a ton of opportunities, say yes and figure it out. I think that is one of the best ways to get started. The danger is when you carry that philosophy into how you scale,
I think the
right?
only
Like,
thing at that point that you're really trying to stay focused on is, am I focused enough to stay in business?
yep,
Right? Am I focused enough to do what it takes to stay in business? And then once you've hit that milestone, you've realized, all right, you've gone through a couple of tax cycles and you realized, hey, things aren't as bad as I thought they were. They're actually going
yeah.
quite well. Then you can really pivot and decide what it is that you want to focus on. But there's this initiation period of just grit and grind that you have to get to whether it's your first half a million or
Oh,
first $1 million. That's going to be very different, like you said, as you scale.
yeah, absolutely.
One thing that you've done really well is create community. And that's how we met and how we had ended up. I got involved in the founders dinners that you were putting on. We met through another community, but you've done a really great job of bringing people together. And I feel like you've always done that as long as I've known you. But how important is community when you're building something?
It's everything, and I don't say that lightly, but and first of all, thank you for comments and kind of compliments on the community. It's been incredibly fun to bring that together, and it's community in general something I've always been a party to. I've always throughout my entire career, there's been an element of kind of building community as part of our products, as part of the companies I've built. It's only very recently that I've started doing it more in the founder entrepreneurial ecosystem. And that was largely a reaction from reflecting back on my entire career and going, the best things that have ever happened to me have come from community and come from meeting the right people at the right time. And then going, okay, well, like I don't like the events I'm going to. Again, I can either complain about it or I can take an active role in changing that and do something. And so we started the Founder Dinner series almost 2 years ago now as a way of like let's host a get together for founders to meet that isn't inundated by sponsors and service providers and lawyers and accountants and bankers and everything. Nothing wrong with that whole ecosystem. They're great, but I did get kind of tired of going to founder events that had like 3 people running companies and 19 people that were BD reps from the big five and 5 different law firms and everything else. It was like, okay, I need a place to find my people. And as a founder, and we'll say founder owner, like whether you're the founder company or you're owning owner running it, but like it is a pretty lonely journey. Um, Often with disproportionate levels of excitement and stress. And you can't necessarily lean on your coworkers because everyone's kind of looking to you for leadership. You can't always or often lean on your spouse or partner. They may not be entrepreneurial. They also may not be someone who necessarily wants to live the roller coaster of the stress and anxiety. Even if they are, it's not always fair to put the entire burden of all of your stress and anxiety on one person. And the reality is, especially in business, like you are 1 or 2 people away from fundamentally changing your life and changing the trajectory of your company, whether it's the right piece of advice, the right contract, the right opportunity, the right conversation at the right time. Like people don't always recognize how transformational your network can be and how important that can be at different times. And the same thing is like you are one conversation away from helping somebody else coming up change their lives. And so being a part of lots of communities, being a part of a community that resonates with you is, I think, one of the best things you can possibly invest in, both time and money as you go. I'm a huge proponent of if you can pay for information now instead of suffering and spending 2 years to learn it, um, please, where do I sign up? How do I pay? Where do I check out? Like, give me the code to go faster, please. And I don't always know what I don't know. And so that comes down to, can I sit at tables with people who've done the thing before me? Um, it's funny, you mentioned a little bit of like, I've got 45 minutes. What do I do to move things forward? And kind of looking at what do you do with pieces of time like that? One of my favorite exercises in our companies is doing a little bit of that, like forecasting, org chart planning, like what are the next big problems that we're going to run into? And not necessarily just me, but like my director of marketing, my director of sales, my COO, what's coming down the line for them? And as CEO, what's my job? My job is to go find the people that have solved those problems, get them in my network, and be able to open a door when the people on my team hit that wall. I have the name or the referral or the contact to the person that solved the problem they're now in. And a lot of that comes from building a community of founders, being like, okay, if I know my COO is gonna hit a wall at 20 million when our team is 100, can I go meet 10 other COOs that have gone from 20 million to 100 million? Cool. Can I get to a place where I can call them when she's stressed and she's like, "What? How do we deal with this?" Here are 3 phone numbers. Call them. Go have conversations. They've all solved this already. You don't like. Short of being involved in like how do we land stuff on Mars, you're not inventing new stuff. Most of your companies are less innovative and world changing than you think. So go find the people that have solved the problem before you and get in front of them and get your team in front of them. And so all of that becomes possible with community. None of that is possible alone in your basement.
I I love what you said about reaching out to people within a community because I think that there's this fear that if you're going to reach out to somebody in a community to try and solve a problem that's in your business or in your life or whatever it is that you're going through, that nobody else is going to understand, or they're going to end up looking down on you like, hey, well, I solved it. Why didn't you solve it? And my experience is that is not at all the the outcome. My experience is if I've reached out to somebody and I'm not necessarily trying to sell them anything, and my intentions are, I just have a question. I understand that you've been through this. I'm wondering if you might be able to share a bit of information and help somebody else out that is in the same position that you were in 10 years ago or 8 years ago or whatever that is. Most people that have been through that are really happy to talk about it. They're really
Oh,
happy to talk to you because they know that they wish that they had somebody that they could have talked to at that point, or they did have somebody to talk to at that point and they accredit a huge amount of their mentorship that they had in the first place to get them to where they are. And so people are pretty open about having conversations as long as they feel you're not trying to sell them on something, because people are trying to sell them things left, right, and center
yeah.
all day, every day. And that's the last thing that they really need.
What I would add to that, and what I've seen and what my approach has always been, and this applies on social media, in communities, in groups, is if you can fundamentally take the stance of give as much as you possibly can in terms of knowledge, share, make yourself accessible to those that might need support in your ecosystem or in your community. Guardrails around it so you don't blow up your calendar or anything, but like default to give. And people see that, people recognize that. And if you can kind of give 10 times for every time you need to ask for advice or support or questions, people are infinitely more receptive to that when you've been able to establish and demonstrate you're a person that tries to give back more than you try and take. If you just show up in every group, you're just always asking everybody for everything, I think that becomes pretty unsustainable pretty quickly because people get to know the people that are never answering other people's questions or contributing, but then always popping up with their own. But if you can really get good and proactive and how do you help and give back, yeah, my experience has been unbelievably generous from people that I reach out to be like, hey, here's what I'm doing. And I know you've done something similar. Here's some ways that I might be able to help you, but right now we're drowning in this. Any thoughts? How'd you survive it? Often gets very, very, very positive
Is that Gary
responses.
V? Jab, 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 right hook, right? Ask or
Give,
your
give, give, give. Yep.
give, ask.
Yeah.
And he's so right.
100%.
And exactly what you said. And I think that there is a big difference in community because I'm a part of a number of different communities online and just different business owners, whether it's, in social media, whether it's in AI, whether it's specifically in building. And you're going to find the communities that you are one able to contribute to. And so you're excited when you're there to show up to whether it's in-person events or if a question comes up that you're generally excited to share the information with and help people. And two, right? If you're getting something out of it, whether it's just as simple as motivation or information or inspiration, then that's probably a pretty good community for you to be in. But you can't take all the time. You can't ask all the time. And that's one thing that I think people really get fucked up on LinkedIn that bothers me a
Oh my
whole heck
God.
of a lot. It's like, hey, you want to be a new connection? Cool, here. And as soon as I click accept, hey, have you ever considered, your
Yeah.
financial future and what would it be like if you had more money? I can help you with that. This is what I do. It's just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Just see you later. I don't because
Bye.
like it's just this idea that because you've connected online, you kind of want to know who these people are. But if you come out like hard and fast with that
Oh
sale
yeah.
with little context, it's never going to work, or very
Yeah.
rarely is that going to work.
Well, and I think people also mistake give value with sell people, right? Like in your example, there are a few times I've had the connection in the instant, like, hey, here's a thing I've made I thought you might find useful. Occasionally, it's useful. Like, here's a case study on how we studied a bunch of agencies. Here's how they went from 10 million to 20 million. I was like, that I would read. That's cool. But if the immediate pitch is, hey, buy my service, I can help you scale more revenue. It's like, that is a sales pitch. Fuck off. Like, you're not opening with any kind of value. You're just opening with, I can sell you, I can sell you, I can sell you, which maybe works in some industries. My experience for cold is that does not yield a whole lot.
For somebody that was looking to build their own community, where would they start? Because I think that there's this sense that people want to build a community, a sense of belonging, and they love this, but they also don't understand how much effort it takes to keep people connected because you can throw up a banner, you can throw up a flag and say, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, who wants to join? But if there's no substance behind it, then nobody's going to stick around and they're going to move on because people do, because information moves fast. So once you've started a community, I guess first of all, if you want to start a community with people and you wanted to start something all over again, what would your practical advice be? And then once you see the community starting to build, how do you continue to keep people engaged and not leave that community?
That's an awesome question. And I'm gonna preface my answers with that is a core part of what I'm trying to figure out for 2026 because I think starting is easy. As you said, stick up a banner, be like, hey, come join my club. Lots of people will just join just because. How you create value and meaningful direction around that and how you keep engagement is significantly more challenging. I have a lot of thoughts around what I want to do with our community specifically for 2026 to do that. And I think some of it comes down to early on establishing kind of what is the vision for the community and teaching and training people how to engage. And I would say this is something we did. We did very well with the vision of the dinner series. We've done a lot of founder dinners now. Tiny plug, I've got one coming up in Tampa. This will probably be out after that. But then we're in Lisbon for November and then back in Vancouver in December. But the dinners were very good because they were very clear, very intentional, very structured. The community kind of came out of the fact that after we'd done a bunch of dinners, people wanted to stay in touch. And so we created the community largely to keep people from the dinners in touch with each other. And then people are like, oh, like, can I add friends to it that I think would be a good fit? And we're like, yeah, well, we'll vet them and bring them in. And now we're taking a bit of a step back to become a lot more intentional and say, how do we bring the same kind of structure and discipline that we bring to the dinners to the community as a whole? And what are people looking for? Right now, the biggest kind of value prop in the community is both access to the network and priority access to the dinners. As we've done more and more of them, we only have 30 spots for every dinner, and in some cases we've had a wait list of 100 people. Like, it's been pretty cool seeing that part grow. The goal in 2026 is to level that up and get more content from members, get people sharing more in-depth expertise, so there is good shared learnings and resources, and then figuring out, I think sometimes people overcomplicate the technology piece early on. We went with Slack. It's not a good tool, but is a great tool for ease of access.
Yeah, it's sometimes the bane of my existence. There's a few apps that are out there for communities. Slack is like, you use another Slack channel. Mighty, for whatever reason, if you've ever used Mighty like that, it's okay
I
for what it
loathe
is,
Mighty.
but it's very laggy. Like the software piece, I think that people do overcomplicate. Whereas something like a Facebook group or a WhatsApp chat or something like that is,
Yeah.
it works. It's not
Yeah.
as fancy, but it certainly gets the point across.
Yeah. I think I'm inclined, like, we're on Circle right now, and we found, like, I think we've got 700 or 800 people on Slack, and I think we've migrated like 200 onto Circle. Like, that leap is huge and challenging. I think we're going to probably play with school in the new year. We'll see. But ultimately, I think just nailing what is the core value. Like, why did people join? And how do you almost over index on the core pieces and then get out of the way of letting people connect and communicate the way that they want to. I like, yeah, WhatsApp. I don't love Facebook groups. I find you don't have a ton of control there, and it gets messy and noisy so fast.
Yeah, I think what you said about over-indexing on those core things, those few core items of why you're there, and just getting out of the way, right? Letting the market do what the market's going to do. And some point, the community is going to take over. The community is going to do whatever the community is going to do, and it's usually going to be a beautiful thing. But that core thing is bringing people together, keeping them engaged, making sure that everybody's getting value in whatever it is that you offer. And if the whole community decides, hey, we want to get off Circle and migrate over to school because this is where we want to live, then they will do that. But people don't like friction. And
No,
people certainly, I mean, you're a software guy, so don't take any offense to this, but people certainly
no.
don't like more apps and more apps and
Oh
more
my
apps
God.
on their phone, where it's like, why can't we just have a single app where we can do it? So I don't get this, Mighty ping, Slack ping, WhatsApp ping, Facebook ping, school ping. And it's like, I don't even know who all these people are. And at some point, you're just like, I just need some quiet. I just need some space. I love the community piece of it, but I want to go back to meeting people in person. And I think that there's this huge, like, the internet's moving so quickly that these in person, in real life, IRL experiences are going to be massive in
Yeah.
the future, because people are, right, they're able to connect on things like Zoom online or
Yeah.
pretty quickly with a few little chats of their thumbs. But there is this piece that's just missing. And this thing that we just used to do all the time, which was get together as people, is going to now become a luxury experience, because
Yep.
people are really considering where they're going to put their time, and disconnecting from their ecosystem of apps and Slack pings and
Yeah.
social media clutter is going to make way for this. Hey, I want to pay to get out of all of this and get into these real life experiences, whether it's going to be a
Oh yeah.
dinner or whether it's going to be a wellness retreat or a meditation retreat or just surfing and, learning,
Yeah.
whether it is, just business, but you get to surf and do some yoga on the side or whatever that is. But these are going to be really great experiences. that people are going to pay top money for in the future because they really miss it. Maybe.
Oh, like 1,000% yes. And honestly, like we haven't talked a ton publicly about this, but like it's one of the things starting in January. I'm shifting gears a little bit on the dinners, and we're going to be doing 3 dinners a month, so 3 cities each month for all of 2026, and potentially looking at having other kind of key people in the community hosting more dinners on top of that, because like the in-person connection for people. And I've always had the thesis that the best way to build community is break bread, right? Like sit down, share a meal, share stories, get to know people over something a little bit more social, a little bit more casual is one of the best ways to just meet cool people, learn about them, and build human connection. And so doing so much more of that next year. And as you said, I think also finding unique ways to curate both learning and community and connection crossed with cool events and activities and experiences. Like I think that's absolutely the future of so much. It's why we're seeing so many communities and groups like that launch. And as someone who lives, breathes technology and software all day, every day, it's also something I'm seeing like absolutely this is the future. And I want to be part of figuring out what it looks like, because yeah, I love running remote companies. I'm actually on the like pro remote side of the whole back to work debate. But I'm with the asterisk that I think in-person connection is also critically important. And the blend between those is the thing we're going to have to figure out over the next couple of years.
And I think the landscape of how we communicate is changing at such a rapid rate that, like AI, the in-person meetups and gatherings, like you're going to have to find something that's probably going to separate yourself from anybody else that's going to be spending time in that space and bringing people value, because people don't, they discredit the meeting people in person because it takes too much time and they feel that they're not able to move fast enough. But back to our very, like with the very first part of our conversation early, in these like geo markets where you're bound, going narrow and deep can often take you much further than going incredibly wide and having nothing land.
Yeah.
So I think
But I
there's
think
I think there's some real power there for the right
it's
people.
also driving home the point for me that for the next one of these, I will figure out how to drive across that bridge, and we will meet up in person. Whether we got to do that like first thing in the morning, we'll make it happen.
Let's,
Because
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Let's do it. Anyways, Graham, man, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you being here and spending some time with us, even though
likewise,
it is digital. We'll try again when we get that next podcast. We'll just time it
make
like
it
we
work.
tried to last time before the last dinner. We'll find a space and sit down and get it done in person.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
Brandon. Thank you,
Graham,
sir.
where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you?
Find me on Graeme Barlow on all the social media, or iversoft.ca or founderlink.com.
Awesome. We'll put a link in the show notes. Thanks again for your time, and for everyone
Amazing.
out there that's still with us and listening. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And until next time, stay blessed, rock and roll, have a successful
Thank you.
day. Cheers.